Hello, and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always, I'm joined by Mike Smith, award-winning director Brian Redondo, and Savon Jones, aka Captain Bonnie. This is episode 57, and we're reacting to the season finales of the Book of Boba Fett and Peacemaker. One of them is like drinking diarrhea water, and one of them is not. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund.
Incredible!
Gentlemen, welcome back. We skipped a week last week. There wasn't a whole lot going on, but now we're back. Boba Fett has ended. Peacemaker Season 1 has ended. It's a wrap on both of those things, so we get to break them down, talk about them. First, we're going to go with Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett. I'm sorry, I don't want to get it wrong, which is really just Mandalorian Season, 2.5. It's a wrap overall. Where did this land for you? For me, I think the show kind of expanded our understanding and our experience with a bunch of different groups. We got to know a little bit about the Pikes. We got to learn way more about the Tusken Raiders. Is that their name? What are they? Is that their official name?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. You got mad at me last time for calling them a pejorative name.
Yeah, we did. That's what we do.
I think
on
you
the
called
show.
them the Sand People,
Which
Yeah.
is what they're
Christ.
called in the show. They
It's a
call them
pejorative
Sand
in the
People.
show too.
All right. Fair enough. I didn't realize. I know. Hey, we're always learning here. We admit our mistakes. We'll do better.
bro.
When you know better, you do better. Thanks, guys.
still canceled on Tatooine.
And we had a lot of fun, or I had a lot of fun in different parts of the show. I think it never really got a maximum investment from me. It felt kind of uneven throughout the show. There were parts that were good, parts that were kind of, wobbly a little bit. And I think the biggest criticism, it's not necessarily a huge criticism, but, I've already seen this movie when it was called Avatar, when it was called Dances with Wolves, when it was called The Last Samurai. It's just, it's a guy who kind of gets in with like quote unquote the natives or like indigenous folks and then like learns from them and then all of a sudden has an awakening and now is a much better person for it. That's not necessarily like the role that indigenous folks need to play, but I think overall the show it was a strong effort. It was a strong effort.
We were all
Savon,
just
where
looking
you
at you
at?
like, what are you talking about right now?
That's because Brian only watched one episode. Barely.
That's all I needed to watch, honestly.
No, all right. Well,
We'll get there. Savon, what do you think?
Overall, I enjoyed it. Like, I wasn't looking for them to reinvent the wheel or tell some kind of deep story to make me cry. What I came in seeing was like, okay, Boba Fett's a bounty hunter. We're in Star Wars. I want to see cool Star Wars bounty hunter stuff. And I got that. I got to see some really cool Tusken Raider lore. I got to see some great action fight sequences, better than a lot of stuff I've seen in Star Wars, just period, honestly. So from just a pure entertainment standpoint, like, I got a lot. I think the biggest issue the show had was that despite all this cool world building and concepts and art direction and scoring and all that, the main character just isn't that interesting.
agree.
Yeah, so great show, great production value. They did a lot of things right, but it's kind of what Brian said about The Mandalorian at first, although The Mandalorian got better with it, where it's like, I just don't care about this main character that much. And Mando, I think, did better developing their lead. Boba Fett didn't.
Which is crazy. I mean, the cult following for Boba Fett since episode 5 and episode 6 has, like, I don't get it. I don't understand why he's so popular, but like the Star Wars fanboys love the idea of
Because he
Boba
looks
Fett.
cool.
The
Yeah,
idea.
cool.
He's the coolest character from
Yeah.
Star Wars universe.
Is that true?
Yes.
At the time, yeah.
At the time, yeah.
But he
mean,
didn't
he's
do
also
anything. Like, how is he the
mysterious.
coolest?
He
can
captures
we-
Han. He has a bad reputation for, like, don't disintegrate people.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
But that's
that
it.
one line too.
Eh.
Can I
Alright.
talk about one foundational issue with this show?
I was just saying they
Please.
ruined him, right? Like,
Just
from what
one?
people wanted and thought about him.
But is there any way to not, like, it would have been so hard to not ruin him.
What do
Like
you mean?
it's
They had
because
such a cool thing to start with.
got a but it's got a 50-year period of just people building up this character in their heads. It's like scary movies, right? Like if you show the monster, it's always going to be worse than if you don't, essentially.
Yeah, it's like an imaginary girlfriend they built up in their brains. It's just
Yeah.
like, or boyfriend, or
My
whatever.
bounty hunter goes to a different
Do you
school.
have those, Savon? Man, oh, we got to talk after this.
But that's like also a problem in and of itself that like
But here's the thing
people
with
made
that
him into
is-
something that he wasn't.
Sure, and like I think they kind of forgot about the character in making the show in a way, because like he off the bat is supposed to be a sympathetic character. Like we're supposed to like him, be on his team. Like Cad Bane made a good point. This dude worked with the Nazis. Like that's it. We didn't get any type of redemption arc there. You know what I mean? Like this dude like was literally just like a tool of tyranny there, and then we're just supposed to immediately dive into like liking the character and supporting his journey without ever actually seeing that redemption arc. To me, I thought that would have been a far cooler story for Boba Fett rather than just like him wanting to be a crime lord but actually not wanting to be a crime lord when he realizes what being a crime lord is. So it's like that was
No,
like,
you did see his redemption arc. The Tusken Raiders healed him with their magical, powers.
if like Joseph Goebbels got
knowledge.
lost in like the Amazon, and
my
then
God.
like
Oh
everybody
no!
was like,
How did we bring up Nazis so quickly?
well, because that's the whole right. Like Cad Bane was the only one in the whole show that made that point, and I thought it was such a cool line. Like he's a cold-blooded killer who works with the Empire. Like, shouldn't have everybody been like, damn, we really hated the Empire here. Like, I didn't know who this guy was. I don't know why he cares so much about me, but now I kind of don't like him.
Mhm.
But anyway, that was just a foundational. Like when everybody's talking about the history of this character, I just feel like not kind of having that part of the journey is kind of a discredit to the actual character, because now it's just jumping ahead.
And then I think they also undercut the character of Boba Fett with the Mandalorian, basically, because one of the key component to what makes Boba so popular is pure style points. You know, he's just like ringing the bell and
For
breaking
sure.
the bell with style points, and they essentially took all of that from Boba Fett and applied them to Mando in the first season of Mando.
Remember when Boba comes and saves the day in Mando in the last season, and he's just whooping and it's so cool.
It is very cool, but I mean the other parts of it, the mystery, like the cool bounty hunter stuff that Mando would say in that first season, that's all stuff that should have been applied to a character like Boba Fett. Yes, he comes in guns blazing when he does get introduced on that show, but it's kind of like some of the air has already been let out of that character by that point, right? So somebody else has stole his thunder.
Mando's a better Boba Fett than Boba Fett is. Like,
yeah,
that's what
which
it
is
comes
why
down
he had to
to.
come in. Like, I don't watch wrestling, but it felt like one of those moments when, like, the dude's like on the ropes, like about to lose, and then like John Cena's music plays, and it's like, oh my god, it's Mandalorian.
Yeah,
His hair.
You hear the glass smash, the Stone Cold music. It's the Mando, and he's got Grogu.
And they kind of literally did
underneath
that
the
at the
ring.
end of that one episode with the Mandalorian's music.
They did. Mike, overall, how did you feel about it? Not just Boba
feel
Fett's
like-
character.
Well, it's tricky for me because I think it had objectively some of the worst Star Wars we've gotten in a long time, and also some of the best.
What part really stood out to you as like
I think
being
we
the
had
worst?
Just do
three. I think we had three distinct experiences in the show that kind of came together in a unimpressive hodgepodge in the last episode. You had the Tusken Raider story, which was kind of cool. I think like everyone was kind of like, why are we getting? Well, I didn't ask for this. You had the Boba becoming the crime lord who doesn't want to be a crime lord and doesn't really understand what a crime lord is, and then you had the Mandalorian story. The Tusken Raiders stuff, looking back on it, I think was good in its own right. I think it was very aesthetically cool. If you can look past like that giant jump in like kind of moral redemption for that Boba needed, it's kind of cool. I love the Tuskens. I think in Attack of the Clones, we got a little kind of glimpse into their society with like the men and the women and the children too, when Anakin committed a little hate crime there. And then we got the Mandalorian stuff. The Boba crime lord stuff was just terrible. I really have no other way to put it. Like it was Tamura. With all due respect, like he's such a key character, but he cannot.
You know,
act
some
well.
like shady
He
is
can-
about to come out of Mike's mouth right now.
He
With
can't
all due
act.
respect,
Like the dude can. I'm sorry, he
Disrespect.
just
Yeah.
cannot act.
absolute disrespect is coming.
Yeah, respectfully. I thought like it was like honestly, dude, the cyberpunk Gen Z scooter gang
Oh,
hurt
the worst.
me in a really physical way with that really corny chase. I just think like it was just such a miss. Like there was they just like skipped so many steps in this character. Like of why does he want to do this? Does he understand what this is? Like it was just this weird. It was like we almost felt as confused as everybody in Mos Espa the whole time. Of like why does this? Who is this guy and why does he want to rule here? But he's not actually doing anything. Thought that was pretty bad. But then the Mandalorian stuff, Brian, that's why I was like, you should just watch those 2 episodes. You don't have to worry about anything else. You don't even have to worry about the finale. The Mandalorian episodes were, honestly, I think, probably the best episodes of The Mandalorian we've gotten. And they were literally, I'm going to spoil this a little for you, Brian. There was no Boba Fett in them. It was literally just a Mandalorian episode.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
He's not. He
shows
doesn't
up-
show
it was
up.
super
like
Doesn't
5
show
minutes
up.
at the end of the second one.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
The whole first one, he's not there.
And the first one is-
90% of the
I-
second one, he's not there.
That's
I don't
just
wanna- I don't wanna-
admission from Disney that they done f***ed up.
I guess, but it's like here's the
Bleep.
thing: like who it was. The first one was what's the guy's name? I'm forgetting it right now. Who directed the first one? He's a famous director, Robert Rodriguez. Like written by John Favreau, produced by Dave Filoni, directed by Robert Rodriguez, and it was like so much of it was so bad. But the Mando episodes, particularly the one by Bryce Dallas Howard. That's her name, right? Am I saying that right? Amazing. And I won't spoil it. Are we doing spoilers? What are we doing here?
Do it. Do it.
All right. It was just like it drove the actual, not only the Mandalorian. So what we saw, Brian, is we saw Grogu on the planet where Luke builds his academy. He's the first student. You get a ton of look into their actual training together. And Ahsoka's there, so there's an amazing moment
Wow.
with like
Doing
Ahsoka
nothing.
and no, but I mean like the moment
Again.
where she was like, "You're just like your father," like that was chills, dude. Like that was one of the coolest lines I think in Star Wars ever, because that was connecting like 3 of the most important characters throughout all of Star Wars in that one moment, using the Mandalorian and Grogu kind of as the focal point there. It was that episode was literally like so good. Like that had to be Dave Filoni. And then we got a whole episode of just Mando with the Darksaber and his struggle of mastering it. Like, and he essentially gets kicked out of the terrorist group. And you gotta watch it, Brian. It was so good. It was just like, for me, not only did that move forward the Mandalorian, that felt like that like moved forward the Clone Wars. And I think this whole show is just a prequel to the next stage of the Star Wars shows, where they're going to connect all, Ahsoka and Mando and all of that, leading up to Thrawn. But all of that to say, I mean, like, I think one debate we shouldn't have, but like me and Savon had it endlessly for some reason. It was like, can those episodes be the best ones, like in the show called the book? Like, what does that mean for all of this? And maybe the easiest thing is exactly what Brian said, is that they just kind of realized where the strengths were here, and they just were like, screw it, let's not force the connection here. Let's just make those 2
Yeah.
episodes.
It's possible.
Sometimes
think-
you gotta make lemonade.
I didn't this is not an original idea, but when I was watching videos, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, someone was kind of explaining the way that Star Wars props get put together, and the way that any of the functional things in Star Wars work is they can never, and maybe it was Dave Filoni saying this, but like they can never be so similar to objects we already use for that purpose that it takes you out of that world. So if you think about like any of their communicators, right, they're always just like these slabs of like plastic, and they don't look like phones, they don't look like a pager. Even their blasters don't look like guns, other than they have a trigger, but they're, just kind of bulbous or whatever. And any of their cars, any of the robots, like everything that they're using, nothing looks like it would look in our world. Like it all looks like it just came together in a totally different society. And I think that's where a lot of the mod stuff actually runs afoul, right? Because you can very clearly tell that they're just supposed to be Vespas. Like they're shaped like Vespas, they're colored like Vespas.
That's a good point.
And like that takes you out of this whole thing. Like even when they said like Boba's tablet, right, in the last episode, that thing doesn't look like an iPad. It doesn't look, it's just this like some kind of like boxy gadget, right? And you're like, okay, I guess that's a tablet in this world. But then you're looking at these mod vehicles and just realizing that's just a Vespa that they took the wheels off of, and it's like, oh, this isn't actually part of Star Wars in that world. It's part of our world.
What was also strange to me there is exactly along those lines. I think in the actual Boba story, one of the strong parts was the aliens, and like the Twi'leks are heavily featured, and like the bar they're in has tons of aliens, and then to have all the Gen Z cyberpunk moped gang just be humans felt super weird to me. And same way, it just immediately took me out, and them doing a moped chase at 5 miles an hour definitely did not help either.
Hey, but the 360 no scope at the end was pretty dope.
All right, well, Savon, do you want to like defend the show now or what? Like, you've been oddly quiet because like, we just litigated this?
I mean, I feel like it's easy to focus in. It's just crazy to me that y'all are zeroing in on just the things y'all didn't like. Like all the things y'all dislike, I don't disagree in the slightest. Like,
but what did you like?
I mean, like the show is just beautiful to watch, dude. Like there was never a moment when that show was on where my eyes weren't just being stimulated in like an amazing way. Whether it was the beautiful like just sand desert cuts, to your point, right? All the different alien designs, the Twi'leks, like that beautiful mix that we talked about with the Mando of a great mix of, there's a little bit of a lot of practical puppetry, but still that CGI to kind of cover, like just visually watching Mando get his little hot rod speeder and just riding him having,
I love that.
Him having that encounter with the cops again, like. I feel like y'all are so zoned in on the stuff you didn't like.
But I loved all those. There was just so much of it that, like I said, it was like so apparently bad to me that I couldn't look past it.
That's rough. That sounds like that sounds hard, bro. Because
Savon's saying not my problem.
I agree with all, because I was just like, I agree with all those warts, but like to me, all of the awesome moments far outweigh like the spinny 360 shot. Trash. All of the but that is more than made up by Mando and Boba just having like, all right, we about to just kick down the door and go at these fools. All right, bet, let's get it done. Like they went in, they did that for like 3 straight minutes. Like that, to me, that those kind of moments are gonna far outweigh a few cheesy bad directing calls or some bad dialogue. Because, and again, this is Star Wars. Like we talked about this, Mike. I think sometimes people still want Star Wars to be deeper than it's gonna be. You watch every Star Wars movie, there's going to be cheesy, hokey, cringe moments because this is for kids too. Straight up. So you're going to have that 360 cheesy moment, but you also going to have Mando slam a man on the table and cut him in half. Like you got to take you got to take what's for you and accept what's not going to be for you. And the stuff that I know was for me, I was thoroughly entertained.
I think Savon is just a much more positive person than
you're basically just saying glass half full.
I'm a glass half full. I'm a glass half full, especially for stuff that is ultimately fan service for me anyway.
But it's like the glass is half full of water and half full of like diarrhea juice.
I mean, like if it was that bad to you, then I feel you. But look, that's on you. But look, this is my biggest thing with the show, and y'all talked about this. It was the Boba moral compass bit, and I think the biggest moment for me that stood out in the show that could summarize my issues with it is it almost felt like at the end Cat Bane was breaking the fourth wall, where this man said, I got one question. He's like, what's your angle? And I was just like, thank you. That's like how I felt this entire show. What is your angle? And also I get it. Like I'm a long-term Star Wars watcher, so I've seen Boba be malicious, be kind of chill, be an outright antagonist villain. And to your point, Mike, like it makes sense that he wants to become less just out for yourself because clearly that didn't work out for him. So like that, I get that, but in the pacing of the story, I still think it was poorly done. Like I think the biggest issue the show had was they should have introduced Cad Bane sooner, and and the main conflict shouldn't have been him being. I mean, it could be the crime lord stuff, but I think it should have been him. To your point, Mike, reconciling for your actions with the Empire. I think it's a lot better if instead of you just offering the modders money, maybe they say, hey, bro, didn't you work for the Empire? Like, why should we trust you? We don't rock with you. And, that I think that's a better way to tell the story they wanted to tell with his shifting morality.
Is that what they did with Bill Burr in in
Well,
Mandalorian?
yeah. I mean, he like made the point like I wasn't a stormtrooper, and then remember he like lost his cool with that guy who committed a bunch of like war crimes, and that
Yeah.
like blew up the whole bit. And that was so great. And I think what they've done so well up until this point is connected to the Empire and make us feel the kind of that we're living in the wake of an empire. Like, remember one of the first shots in the Mandalorian is the stormtrooper helmets like on the spears. So yeah, I'm glad we got that on recording because that little conversation just sums up me and Savon's relationship.
Hey.
All right, let's start wrapping up our conversation about Book of Boba Fett. So I just want to talk specifically about the finale. That episode was just like a roller coaster. I mean, it went everywhere. All kinds of things were going down. I couldn't name everything that happened. I mean, it was just like shot after shot of just like memorable things. You know, there's a King Kong homage. There's
Ugh, I
mean,
hated that.
there's the Darksaber getting used. There's these like unbeatable droids. There's some Hulkinations going on. The free people come in. I mean, it was just all over the place. Out of all the moments that are occurring throughout this just chaotic episode, what tends to be your favorite? Savon, did you have like some things that just stood out to you as like, damn, that was awesome?
I mean, you know, when first of all, Boba giving the Twi'lek counselor dude his terms of surrender, and homeboy goes out there and reads it, and it's just a big proverbial middle finger. I was just like, what is this man about to write? And he really was just like, yo, y'all gonna turn around, y'all gonna bounce. I'm like, oh, he. Really
it had like a really like brutal line in there too. It had like we'll water our fields with your blood.
I was just like, oh. So then the part after I said before, them just like going full send. All right, we about to just fight, use all our gadgets, all our stuff, shoot till it's done. Absolutely love that. And I enjoyed watching the Rancor just go nuts. I think it went on a little longer than it needed to, but ultimately, like, they introduced a Rancor in the first episode, so they damn well better use it. And so I'll take what I can get. And, I actually like the Cat Bane Boba, like a little old Western shootout bit. I didn't think I'd like it,
sure.
And I ended up loving it. I was like, oh, Bane nice with it.
Yeah, dude, that Mater D guy, man, he really thought he was just like gonna be the facilitator of like the treaty at Yalta. He was like, we're gonna get it, everybody's gonna be happy.
He didn't get killed though, right? Did he die?
I don't think so. I think he ran away. Oh no, he didn't, right? Because he was sitting next to the lady with the curly hair, the mechanic.
Yeah, that would have been messed
when
up.
the Rancor was yelling at him. But for by far my favorite part of the past 2 episodes was Cat Bane. I mean, dude was like, he was probably one of my favorite parts of the Clone Wars. Just his swagger, his way of talking, his confidence, and they brought all of that into his character in this one. I think obviously it was completely aided by the fact that it's the same voice actor.
Yeah, for sure.
Which really helps, right? That guy has a deeper understanding. I mean, they did probably 10 or so Cad Bane episodes in Clone Wars. So
I think it must have been more than that.
More than that?
Yeah, he's
and
like
then,
a rookie.
And then one in. Yeah, but I mean, whatever. However many he got to do, he had a good understanding of what Cad Bane was about, right? And what kinds of things he was feeling. And I think that came through in just like his like don't give a crap attitude, right? Just like, nah, man, like this is the way it is, and you're gonna do what I say, or like we're gonna end this with a battle, like with a nice little shootout. So I don't condone this in real life. Just to see him on screen as that version of himself, it was pretty cool.
So he's like the 3rd or 4th character in this like larger web of shows that was first in the animated shows and now in the live action shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they're getting more like
who else besides Ahsoka?
Ahsoka, a Fennec Shand started out in the end of Clone Wars.
You're right.
I don't remember her.
Is that
One
the
cool
Rebel
thing.
pilot?
No, that's Boba's right hand woman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ming-Na Wen. How old do you think the actor that plays?
Oh,
She was in
gotta be
Agents
in
of
her
S.H.I.E.L.D. She's got to be like
50s,
50. She's got to be like 52.
She's 58. She looks like she's
She's
like 30.
58.
I know
Yeah,
she's been around a long time.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Joy Luck Club, bro. 1994.
Oh, I don't know. She's literally looks unreal. Like I don't even mean that in like a creepy way. I'm just like, God damn, can I have whatever you're having?
Yeah, she's drinking Ra's al Ghul's Fountain of Youth, man.
Facts.
Oh, all right. One
cool.
One more thought about this, and this is just a fun fact that I thought was actually really cool. The Luke. So everybody at the
was
end
it where
of
the
Mandalorian,
fucking huge tank droids came from, Mike? Can you tell me where they came
I
from?
don't. You know what? I don't need to fetch anymore. I mean, I think Savon's been so positive that we can just kind of lean on that.
Nah, hey.
But something that was really cool about the show was everybody complained about the deep fake for Luke at the end of The Mandalorian. So this guy on YouTube made here's an edited version. They brought that guy in to do it on the show. And then the voice acting was entirely computer generated. They ran not only Luke's lines from the movies, but Mark Hamill just talking in places, and everything you heard that character say, and he had a lot of dialogue that was all created by a computer.
Wow.
They
That's
didn't have
incredible.
Mark Hamill come back and do it.
No, it was all computer generated. I thought
Nice.
I
I've
didn't know
never
that.
heard of someone doing that before.
I heard
What
about
if
the
they-
deep fake
Super
dude getting
cool.
hired. I heard about that somewhere. It's nice
Yeah.
that he
Off
worked on
YouTube,
it.
it's kind of like that channel you watched.
Yeah,
as well.
exactly.
So I
No,
was like-
he had collaborated with them before on that channel because they had done a whole deep fake series.
I like
So
that he
that's-
Justin Bieber'd his way onto Star Wars. But
Hey.
what if they fed the computer Mark Hamill's other voice acting?
The
he had,
Joker
the
comes
Joker
out.
up in there.
Everything.
Fire Lord
He just starts
Ozai.
cackling.
Yeah. So, Mike, did you have a favorite part about the
No,
finale?
I didn't like the
Just-
last episode.
really?
It was. I mean, there were cool moments, but it was just there were inconsistencies narratively throughout the entire show that just I just didn't understand. It was he made a whole point I don't want to damage the city at all. We need to protect the city, and then he just brings out a Rancor to destroy everything. The weapons
did do
were
that.
cool. The Darksaber's obviously cool, but the big Droideka things are dope. But in the prequels,
Oh,
when
those
the
got me so
Droidekas
upset.
have their shields up,
So
they
upset.
don't just shoot at the shields. And the battle for 20 minutes was just them shooting at the shields.
Yeah.
And I was like, this doesn't work. You can do however many cool moves as you want. You can keep shooting the shield. It's not going to work. And then as soon as the shields went down, they stopped shooting at it.
They were just in awe at their success.
And it was just so much of that. And it was just again, I mean, this whole fight is him trying to save the city, and we have no basis of why does he care about he's not from Tatooine.
Yeah.
The Tuscans don't exactly like any of these cities, so I don't understand why he was so keen on taking over the
Makes no sense.
crime lord's seat, and then doesn't want to be a crime lord. I've said that a million times, but it's the foundation of the show, and it's just this whole big dramatic fight. The stakes feel fake.
Indeed. Good rhyming there at the end, though. No, my problem is those droids, man.
I
They
like
just were not set up.
Droidekas.
They
Droidekas
were-
are so set. What
they
do you
were
mean
not
set
set up
It
at
doesn't have to be
all.
set up.
No, you do.
It's
The
Star
Pikes- the
Wars.
Pikes
you just
had-
get
had
crazy
used-
ships and droids and everything.
No, but even in the prequels, they would set up what kind of armaments each of the groups were going to be using. They made no. They always
Yeah.
did that. They always did that. They established what kinds of things each group is going to use, and then they would show up. In this one, the Pikes had only so far fought with blasters in cars. That was it, or on foot. And then all of a
And then
sudden,
you're
they
where do these giant droids come
Right.
Didn't he have
Like,
like
how
a
do
super,
they-
Didn't he have that super train too?
no, that was a
from?
different
No,
group.
they were robbing the train.
Yeah,
No,
was
they
the
weren't.
Pikes.
They had the
That was the
water.
Pikes. They
Yeah,
had the train.
Yeah.
That was
no,
them.
that
Yeah.
wasn't.
It was the Pikes.
It was the Pikes,
because they had the water. Remember, and he made him drink all the water or whatever.
and then made him
All right.
leave.
But they didn't. That's not a droid. That's a train.
No, yeah, it's a train. Yeah, no, I look. Sometimes in Star Wars, it's just it's like a boss fight. I mean, that happens. I think narratively, you should, or for characters, you should have a foundation. But I don't think you need to
Yeah.
provide a backstory to every cool.
No, but we
ship or
should have
droid.
been privy to what the Pikes were doing
This is
throughout.
such a specific thing that you're caught up on. I'm here for it.
Well, no, but I was even in episode 2, I was kind of I really wish they would show us what the Pikes were up to, so that we could get a sense of what were their goals, what was their aim, and what is their sort
Sling
of code.
dope.
We
What
didn't
kind of
even-
code
yeah,
would you
they
live
were
by?
just drug
They
dealers.
pushing
We
that
didn't
work. They moving that bricks. They moving that spice. You dig?
But
They made it
why
very
and to
clear.
what
Why
end?
are
What are they going to
season
do with
7?
it?
Money.
Yeah, but what are they going
Come
to
on,
do?
Wesley.
What are they going to do with all this money? What are they going to do with all
Oh
this
my
power?
God!
What's
What are they
going
going to do with
What are you
money?
This man really asking why drug dealers move drugs.
Wes, has your brain
what-
been
it's
invaded
like-
by a
No,
butterfly?
It's just
But
like,
why-
but what is their motivation? Why do they care about this money?
No, we would have absolutely benefited from seeing what the
No,
Pikes were
they
up
can
to.
just be drug dealers. That's
100%.
fine. You don't need to have it. Just money. That's what like all of Dune is. That's what like all of The Wire is. That's what all of Breaking
This
Bad
is the
is. I
Mr.
just
Krabs
need
meme. Why'd you
money.
do it? Money.
Yeah,
So-
but they don't even establish that. They could
They're
have
a
established
crime
that.
organization. They've been in the show for years.
The crime organization, the money part
That's
is
it.
implied.
That's it. Boba didn't want that. If Boba was just like, I'm just trying to get the bag, dude, then I would have had way less issues with this show.
Yeah.
But he explicitly didn't want to do any of that, but
Yeah,
still put himself in the ring.
You know, it's like I mean, that's how it was like in San Andreas. You know, you're a gangster, but you're not a drug dealer. It's two different things.
Like if Michael K. Williams in The Wire was like, I'm just here to kill people. I don't actually want any of your money or anything. Nobody's gonna like if Omar wasn't trying to be a part of the game, like that show doesn't mean anything or his character doesn't mean anything. That was the issue with Boba. It was just like, why are you here? What do you want?
What's your angle?
What? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
It was a
so
good circle
whatever.
back. All right, you know what?
Bro.
Enough of that. I'm just
If I've
Especially-
learned anything from this conversation, is that with Star Wars, you got to enjoy that diarrhea water. It's just part of it.
all right, let's end on that note. Jesus Christ. Enjoy your diarrhea water, friends. Watch it on Disney Plus, streaming
It's
now. You
actually
can watch
diarrhea juice.
all 8 or 9 episodes up there now.
it's got
in
citrus.
totality.
Stop.
All right. Echinacea built in, guys.
All
Vitamin
right, well
C.
now let's talk about a show that didn't care about being too serious.
All right, so we'll talk about Peacemaker, a John Cena and James Gunn driven project, HBO Max. We talked about a little bit after the first couple episodes, and they've also wrapped up their first season. Completely a, like you said, smooth brain. This is what Mike likes to call it, a smooth brain watch for sure. You don't need to be highly engaged. You do need to be engaged, but you don't need to know all the ins and outs and the details and all that. Like none of the details about the plot really ultimately matter. It's just about the character interactions and the adventures they go on.
It's a good phone show.
Yeah, yeah, Alan could be on the phone and be fine. So, what did you think of the series overall? Brian, let's get you involved here since you didn't do the homework and watch book of Breaking Bad back there.
Because I decided not to torture myself by sitting through that mess.
Yeah, so what did you think about Peacemaker?
On the flip side, Peacemaker was surprisingly decent to good, in my opinion. I think
and you
it's-
weren't a big fan after the first couple episodes, is that right?
No, I mean, I appreciated the humor. I liked John Cena and what he was doing with the role and how committed he was to it and just making it work. But I felt like the show, at least in the first 3 episodes, was a little on the empty side. There was no other reason to really give a damn about Peacemaker or the people around him. I think by the time we get to the finale, we're mostly invested with everything that's going on, even though we still have a phone in our hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of like they're not Guardians of the Galaxy, right? I'm going to use that as the basis of comparison because that's James Gunn's property also. And so they're not that. We're not with every single character of this show. We don't get to know them fully and deeply and have like more of a 3-dimensional perspective on what's going on. If you could even say that about Guardians. But in this, at least they come together and you don't want to see bad stuff happen to all those characters. Like you actually see genuine growth with Peacemaker and with his dynamics with the rest of the team, and they feel more like a team, and you're sort of rooting for them. But I do think that ultimately they're still a little thin. But there's this overarching plot with the butterflies, which is like interesting enough. There's the white dragon stuff, which was interesting enough. And I guess where I'm landing is like, yeah, you could watch the whole show and it's a good watch, but you could also not watch it and feel like you're missing out on cultural zeitgeist here. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's kind of like it's a good watch, but it's not an incredible watch.
Fair. Savon?
Thought it was fun. I didn't care about the Peacemaker
That is
character.
not what your first line in your little write up here says. Does not say I thought it was fun.
What did I put?
I loved it.
I did love it. It was
That's
fun.
not I.
Sell it, bro.
But you stopped me before I could even go into more of it.
I mean, but if you're gonna lead up with it in the notes here, then lead with it.
Yeah.
It was.
Give them what they want, Savon.
It was fun. I enjoyed watching it. I did not care about the premise of the show or the character in the Suicide Squad movie. In fact, even though John Cena was a good actor, I didn't care about his character at all. Even though he's a good actor. So I went into this show with very, very low expectations. I was not interested. I was like, about to not watch this show. And I'm glad I watched it. It was entertaining. Ultimately, I wasn't bored watching it. I was entertained. There were lots of... I'm not like a cinemaphile type of person.
It was fun. I wasn't bored. How is that I loved it? If that's the thing you love...
That's the bar.
You don't stop me before I could get to my thing. Lord.
I mean, it's... All right.
I think it's fair. Fair criticism,
I'm not one of those like cinemaphile, like, oh, look at how they did this amazing camera shot and the music type thing.
Even though that
just
is
add
what you
Alan
highlighted
next
for
time.
Book of Boba
exactly.
Fett.
Well, it's there. You love it.
What you mean?
You just talked about that in Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that like that's not something that always stands out to me though.
Okay, all right.
Like that's not always what I'm looking for, but if it stands out, it is. And I definitely didn't expect. I expect that from Star Wars. I don't necessarily expect that from Peacemaker. And also, it's different types ways they did it. I'm not usually into James Gunn because a lot of the music he uses is just music I never listened to, so it just doesn't resonate with me.
You didn't have a hair metal phase?
Never in the slightest. All these, I'm like, okay, I get the vibe. I didn't grow up to this vibe, so it's not clicking, but I get it. But man, that dude knows how to do some just really dope just shots and sequences and long takes, and there's a lot of moments like that throughout the show where I'm like, as someone who doesn't have a strong eye for these things, this is really well done. Like this is very well executed and done with attention to detail. Like the butterflies raiding the police station scene, and John Cena like mourning the death of his brother drinking. Like there's a lot of little moments where I'm like, oh, this is really like intentionally and well thought out, put together, and that's what I really loved about it. I didn't expect that to happen, and I didn't, I had low expectations, so I didn't expect the best part of the show to just be really well thought out, well filmed, fun to watch scenes. And yeah, I'm glad I watched it.
James Gunn really knows how to do set pieces, right?
Yeah.
Like the Suicide Squad with the whole starfish thing, and then you come in with the Peacemaker, and you got the cow, you got the butterflies attacking the police station.
Exactly.
Even some of the smaller fight scenes, like when Judo Master is going after Harcourt, the way that James Gunn films those scenes, it's super wide angle and really close up to all the actors, and he stays on the action and then cuts away. And so you get this like very disoriented feeling, but you still understand the fight, right? It's not one of those fights where it's cut, and you just don't know where any of the punches are coming from. It feels really close up and wild, but in a fun way because of how it's shot. So he does all of that stuff really well, and I think that makes the show entertaining on top of what John Cena already brings to it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think
all right.
More so than Boba Fett, and so this is not necessarily specific to the fights, although I think it applies to the fights, is that this entire show felt, I think the word I would use is cohesive.
Mm-hmm.
Right, from beginning to end, episode 1 to episode 9, however many it finished with, everything felt like it was meant to be together in one project. And I don't want to necessarily just compare this to Boba Fett, but in a way that Boba Fett did not have that. Right, they used all these different directors. They ended up with different writers writing all the episodes, and so there's a bunch of this, like, it felt disjointed in kind of the way that like Clone Wars, especially the first few seasons, felt disjointed, right? Because it's a kid's cartoon, but like it's fine in a kid's cartoon because you don't need to watch them in order. But like Boba Fett was meant to be watched in order. Peacekeeper is meant to be watched in order, and so you can kind of feel the through line through the whole thing. And I think they knew what they wanted to be. James Gunn knew what he wanted this project to be from the very beginning, and he executed it. And I think that makes 100% of the difference in why this show just felt so enjoyable from start to finish. Even if, like Brian said, even if it's not like the best thing you've ever seen, even if it's not for you, I think I can certainly, like, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I can appreciate it more because it just felt like one project. Savon.
Tonal. So you think tonal consistency, is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Because Mandalorian season 1 had that issue too, right? Where there was different people doing different episodes, and you could feel like it's not like one's better or worse, but it's just, it's like if different people all made different pies for the bake sale instead of one person making everything. All right, I feel that. I didn't think about that.
That's a strength
but
of
I like
the bake
that
sale,
point.
though. To be clear, that's a strength for the bake sale.
Yeah, but
you want variety.
But some of those pies are not getting eaten.
But I get what you're saying. Okay, I like that. That's a good point, Wes.
Mike?
I don't think I've thought, I think a struggle with doing a show like ours is like sometimes there are shows like Peacemaker. I wonder how many times
Peacekeeper. Yeah. It's not a UN show.
Peacekeeper's a gun in Apex Legends, so I was like, I wonder how many times Wesley said Peacekeeper.
Did I say Peacekeeper this time again?
Yes,
you did.
Dang.
I don't know how much there is to say about it, and maybe that's almost like a good thing about it, is like it doesn't need to be like a huge dramatic piece, which I think is sometimes like Book of Boba was kind of held to that standard based on the strengths of the Mandalorian so far. I mean, look, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think the important thing, and y'all all said this, is that it succeeded at exactly what it wanted to do. I really liked the second Suicide Squad movie, the James Gunn one, and I thought John Cena's character was a really good part of it, but obviously he wasn't a main character. So I think like one of the biggest compliments you can give the show is it's not like apparent that you're like watching a John Cena movie. Like y'all remember, me and Savon were pretty young. Y'all might have been, in college already. Like the Rock movies, like
The Rundown was so good.
Yeah, The Rundown, the one where he has like a 2x4 the whole time, like that's his weapon of choice. The one with Johnny Knoxville. There's one with Johnny Knoxville in it.
Walking Tall.
Yeah, like all of that. Like that whole time you're like, I'm watching like The Rock in a movie, This was like, it was a legit character that you were bought into, and I think that says a lot about the show. Obviously, James Gunn can write some funny lines. I laughed out loud quite a few times. And then
God, that farting scene was so funny.
I was so mad. He was really like, I was like, oh, this dude really pissed off though. Oh God, you could really see that. That's great.
There were a lot of like really like quotable ones, like where he's listing all the people he could have put in jail instead of just that. I really like that one. And I saw a blooper, like John Cena really went like 5 minutes on that.
Oh my God. I
like the career day scene.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was my favorite one. Yeah, and I think like sometimes like the overly emotional badass guys like can be kind of a worn out trope, but I think like they wrote the jokes really well in this instance for John Cena. But I think connected to that trope, it can be challenging for me, and I actually thought of it, and Brian's going to disagree with me here. I thought of it quite a bit relative to Dave season 2, where it's like the whole premise of this show is this guy's a badass, really good at what he does, and he doesn't want to do it anymore. Like that's the whole rub. That's why I really like Suicide Squad, is like he can put a bullet in a hole the size of a bullet, that type of thing. We never really got to see that in this show, and yet you're supposed to really be bought into him like pushing up against that, and I don't want to be that guy anymore. But you never got to see that. That's why I really loved the last fight, because you did get to see him be a badass again and like really whoop some ass there. So I think because they focused on that and they kind of like churned that for so long without actually kind of giving us anything to play off of it, it was hard for me to really stay engaged the entire time. But so much of the other story I think was way cooler than it ought to be. Like sometimes the show felt like I was just watching like a Fox, network like drama thing, like when they're just standing around talking. But then like the butterfly thing, I feel like was way cooler than a show like this had to be. Like that built up in a really satisfying way. So it's just like, I think it's a good show. I don't think it's an amazing show, but I think it accomplished what it wanted to do. So, I mean, like, what else do you have to say?
Absolutely.
It has personality.
Oh,
now, whether you like that personality,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's very consistent. I feel like the humor was very the tone was very consistent. It didn't jump all over, and it's funny going from Book of Boba Fett or those shows where it's literally directed and written by someone different every week. And that's even typical for normal shows to have at least different writers or directors, but every single episode in the show written and directed by James Gunn. So I feel like that is maybe a benefit in the age of vignettes essentially.
Well, which is kind of crazy. I mean, if they did 8 or 9 episodes with Peacemaker, that's basically he did
three movies,
3.5 movies.
Yeah, and they were long
He didn't direct
episodes
all
too.
of them, though.
Oh, he didn't.
He didn't.
No. There's a few in there that's other people.
He wrote
he had
all
to write
of them,
I'm sure
right?
he was
I think
still
he wrote most of them.
I'm sure he was still part of it.
Okay, well, never mind.
Yeah, it's still clear
yeah.
that his stamp is on it as a collective product.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, but just because you have different directors and writers doesn't mean it can't be cohesive. Station 11 had a different writer and director all the time, and yet.
Oh, but some of those episodes
right.
were blatant, the one with the freestyling. Obviously that doesn't align with some of the darker ones. That show was very episodic, I felt.
Yeah, I think there's still something to be said about having a showrunner who really coordinates with their creative team and makes sure that it's consistent throughout and that everything is driving towards the same point. Which you get that in spades in Peacemaker.
Cool.
And I think, going out on a limb here, I actually enjoy Peacemaker a lot more than the Suicide Squad. I think the Suicide Squad is kind of lots of money, lots of acting talent, and James Gunn just having his kid in a candy shop moment. Whereas the Peacemaker, because it's an 8-episode season and a really limited budget, which you can tell when they cut back and forth between Suicide Squad and the show and those flashbacks. I think it forces him to be much more focused and deliberate about building out characters and making sure that everything feels a lot more motivated. My criticism of the first few episodes was it's just joke after joke after joke with no intent. But that changes over the course of 8 episodes, right? In a way that the 2-hour movie never did. And so even though Peacemaker's team of people around him don't have superpowers and they're not interesting in that way, at least they make up for it in comedy, in dynamics that I felt was lacking in the Suicide Squad movie.
Savon?
Yeah, it's this all comes back to something I've talked about for ages, which is TV show formats just give you better avenues for character development. You literally have more time to develop your characters, actual screen time. So Peacemaker in the show, obviously he's the lead, but he's just got exponentially more screen time. Even the support group, you forget, they were still in the Suicide Squad movie. And they were in a full feature-length movie, but they just get more screen time because you got 8 episodes to work with. That's so much more time. So I agree. You always gonna have less money, but TV shows, you just have more time to develop your characters and more ways to do it rather than a movie where you got 2 hours and, to your point, Idris Elba, John Cena, all these stars, people got screen time clauses in their contracts. That's a whole, you by design, you're not going to get to develop these characters like you want. It's the same reason the Clone Wars get better with developing.
Not all characters need to be developed, though, is the thing. So it's I feel that way about Marvel a lot. Is why do you need a sideshow? Why do I need or even Star Wars? When they were going to do a Gina Carano show, I was why does that character need its own show? So it's trick. Sometimes it's do we actually need a show here?
More is not always more.
Yeah, and I feel like Peacekeeper very easily could have gone in that direction, but it didn't. So maybe that's an accomplishment in itself.
I think so.
I think you just need good minds behind it. Just like any other show. Some spinoffs suck, but sometimes you have a good team, you get Better Call Saul. It's
yeah.
So if James Gunn never got canceled, it would have been way worse for him. Because now his cancellation led him to a successful DC movie and a whole TV show.
And I'm sure DC is like, well, we got to keep this guy around for a
Oh,
long
for
time now.
sure. I mean, now they went from like, oh, we don't have enough money to care about your old tweets to keep it coming. People don't care anymore.
Yeah,
All right,
turns out
I got a small
dancing isn't
question.
real.
This is probably for Savon, but what's the point of the partial like Justice League cameo at the end?
Answer that yourself. Like,
just
why
take me
don't
out of it.
Savon? Hang on. Answer. Why do you think, Wesley?
I mean,
I thought
really
it was
just
a silly question too.
I just felt like they were just like
Wes just wants a reason to rant.
Why? What other famous superhero universe does cameos a lot?
that was a dumb way to do a cameo. All right,
Shows
fair.
do cameos all the time.
That was a
No,
dumb
but like,
cameo.
come on, that was obviously a Marvel thing, and like, it was him joking too. Like, it wasn't even him. Like,
What do you mean it was a Marvel thing?
it was like a Marvel cameo. You put a superhero from something else in the last minute.
But not all four, and not.
Well,
Not
it was
like
only
that.
two of them. And
Well, they're not actually in it.
Yeah, it was just the
Clearly.
flash. I liked how he cursed, though. I did like that.
Yeah. It's just meant to be a fun moment, bro. The show itself was never meant to be super serious in the first place. The
Yeah, but
Justice
that's
League
why it-
exists.
Can I-
Okay.
It's a
And
joke.
I love
It's
how the show
Yeah,
isn't trying
like-
to set up like some other DCU
And do you know-
It's a
like
joke.
garbage. And we don't even need to think about the rest of the DC.
Yeah,
universe.
that's
like,
why I
Well,
took
he
me out of
just
it. Like,
works on
they
its
didn't need to
own.
be there.
It's a
Here's-
joke.
I think he's poking fun there.
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah, it's just like,
That's fair.
and it's not all that. I think,
And like you're late. It's a joke.
Yeah, you're late. We're not trying to set up some other show where it's Aquaman and Peacemaker just keeps talking about Aquaman doing
Gotcha.
fish.
All right.
Like, that's not the point.
a final thought is, when DC the movie universe was first starting, like contrasted to Marvel, like Marvel was super funny and light, and DC was all these dark brooding characters. It feels like now they're actually like slowly switching, right? Like the most recent Marvel movie, No Way Home, was super emotional, all that.
Are
And
you
now
choking
DC
up?
Yeah, Mike was choking up there.
I'm just
Remembering
literally
Peter.
choking. I might though, talking about that movie. But now it just seems like DC's really just accepting like you can be funny. It doesn't have to be dark and brooding, and it can be good, and it can build on each other. So maybe that little comedy tag at the end there with Aquaman was Savant. Why are you shaking your head?
They should have been learned that lesson though.
I just don't think that's true. I think they're only doing that with the Suicide Squad brand because that's.
But then
just
why
what the
not
tone
put?
is.
But why would they put Aquaman in it and have him cursing?
Oh, so you're saying it
Because
wasn't
it's just meant to
stupid
be a funny
question.
moment. Like I don't think that's gonna
Yeah,
be a trend
but
of how
I-
they do their movies as a whole. I just think
No,
that
but I
brand
think
lends itself to that humor.
I mean, they might try, to be honest. I mean, they did. The DC overlords did mess with the original Suicide Squad movie to try to make it more funny, and I think that's part of why they brought in James Gunn. They're trying to follow the tried and proven model that MCU started or established.
All right, final thoughts. I just want to say, I think, I know it's whatever. Kudos to James Gunn. Kudos to John Cena.
Agreed.
I think they both did a great job at what they were
Agreed.
trying to do. And I don't think this is award-winning, Oscar-winning, whatever. I just think they were great at what they were doing, and it made it super enjoyable for me to watch it.
It could have been way worse. That's-
Way worse.
Yeah. I was really worried about all the political stuff that they threw into it, and like the kind of like virtue signaling stuff with dealing with his racism and bigotry and all of that kind of
Is it virtue
stuff.
signaling to be like KKK bad though, Brian? They weren't picking like
there was-
contentious issues. It was like QAnon.
There was more than
and-
that. I mean, like
Was there? I
it
might have
wasn't
missed it.
just KK. It was just like
Oh,
just
I guess
like
he
the
was
s-
kind of racist.
the
and
small
sexist,
comments
yeah.
where the team is asking him like, why are you doing this crap, why are you doing this stuff, or like
Yeah.
do you have to mention her tits and stuff like that.
Right.
I think it was like pretty much throughout the whole show, and I was like really, sometimes it was verging on the line of what felt like pandering to me, but yeah, it's interesting that it's a big part of the show, and I think that could have easily went wrong real quick. I also don't think that it's 100% successful either. It still felt a little cringy to me every time that kind of stuff came
Do you
up.
think it's James Gunn being like, "Look, guys, I'm with it now"?
I
don't-
kind
I
of
don't
think
s-
so. That was in the back of my head. I was like, well, this guy's trying to reconcile a lot. He is Peacemaker in this, maybe.
Oh.
Well, what they did do, I think, well, was acknowledge that, yeah, he has a bunch of problematic things he says and does, but what they did do well is that, like, people address it, but he doesn't do the same, say or do the same dumb thing repeatedly. And I think that did kind of drive home that he's like, keep in mind, I was not very empathetic to the character at first, but I think they did do a solid job of, like, when he gets called out on his nonsense, he does reflect and try not to do it again. So it's not like they're doing the same joke every episode, because generally when they call him out, he's like, okay, like with the thing about the Orient, it's like, all right, they didn't just harp on that the whole season. It's like, oh, cool. And then he just stopped.
Wait, can I say this though? Savon, you were talking when we talked about this last time that Harcourt and Peacemaker were probably going to end up together. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think so. Like, it just seems like that's not their dynamic. They're just setting them to be like, like enemies and then friends, like, or coworkers. And then they held hands at the end. And I wanted to throw things at the screen, man. Like, that was horrible. Like, she's clearly got her stuff. Mostly she's got her stuff together. He clearly does not. He's a traumatized, like, emotionally stunted man baby. Like, there's no way she's like, oh yeah, let's like make this romantic. Like, that dude is his
Maybe
best friend
platonic.
his best friend is an
Yeah,
eagle.
you never hold hands with the homies?
Especially when they're on the verge of dying.
I don't know, like, you can't, like, that goes
Brian,
against
when I was in
everything
the
we're
hospital,
saying
did
about
you
this
hold
show.
hands with me?
Did I even visit you in the hospital? I think someone
Brian be
forced
like,
me to
oh
go.
shit, I forgot to do that.
That
What were
sounds
you in
about
the
right for your
hospital
college
for?
self. I feel like now yourself you would visit, but
No, but Wesley, you can't say that. I feel like you can't have that take about the show. Like, the whole point of the show is don't think too much about it. Like,
Yeah. No, I mean, it's fine. It's just
And
made me
it's
wanna
like
throw
not even
things.
like heavily
really-
implied. It's like, they could
saying I
easily just
want
have
to
it not
throw
be.
my
They-
phone at the TV is not. It's fine, Wes.
I mean, at least
it's
it didn't
fine.
end with them in a silhouette doing it doggy
Yeah,
style.
exactly. It's just like,
That would have been better.
But I think you're right, Wes, that like James Gunn is definitely just kind of using Harcourt as
I
as
thought
sort
they
of like an
weren't.
object.
Yeah, I thought they
and
weren't gonna go there.
something for him to win by changing. He like changed his internal life, so now he's
Also, that's
worthy
James
of
Gunn's. That's James
this
Gunn's
woman.
girlfriend in real life.
yeah.
Oh, for real?
yeah.
Maybe he had to change so that he could date her too.
Maybe.
Oh, James Gunn is the Peacemaker. You heard it here first.
Good Lord.
All right. Any other final thoughts? Are you guys good?
I'm good.
I
Yeah.
mean, it was just a fun, silly
Whatever.
show. I thoroughly enjoyed
Oh.
it. I think most people out there would enjoy it.
Oh, shout out to Danielle Brooks as Adebayo. I wasn't sure how I felt about her initially. I wasn't sure how I felt about them doing the whole fish out of water thing with her. I always loved her in Orange is the New Black when I first introduced to her. I really like the casting for this show. I want to just throw that out there. I know these are characters that were from the movie, but I always love when a show can have like a dynamic cast of not just traditionally attractive leading people, but still have great actors. Like,
Who's
just
not traditionally attractive, Savon?
All of
I mean,
them.
first of all, John Cena looks like a giant meathead action figure. Like,
Bubble-
that's not how
bubble
regular
guy.
people look. Like,
No.
Hardcore's probably like the closest, and then everyone
Yeah.
else just like regular people.
100%.
Vigilante
There's like
looks
a
like a
Schwarzenegger
goober.
joke.
Yeah. They even make fun. But like, I actually really appreciate those types of things, and I think Adebayo was just a really, I don't know, she was a deceptively fun character. I ended up enjoying way more than I thought, because she really just had moments where she's insidious and good at her job, and like she said, built for this shit. And other moments where I'm just like, yo, I feel how you feel right now. Like, what are we doing here? I want to go home.
I love that she got her moment at the end
Yeah.
with the two-handed gun toting like
Yeah.
guns blazing.
Like that
Wow.
was so fun to watch. Like, I was in my sofa seat just like, yeah, get it. But yeah, shout out
Suddenly
to Danielle
turned
Brooks.
yeah.
I think she's a very underrated actor.
And
Someone-
Mern too. I like Mern a
was
lot.
so good.
I would love
Oh,
to see that
really?
guy in more
The
stuff.
actor was so good, bro.
I didn't connect with him. That's interesting.
I love
All right.
Mern.
Someone more petty than me would point out that it was unclear how Adebayo gained all those gun skills, but it's fine.
She said she had
I didn't
she had
question-
gotten high ranks. in the beginning they say it. That
I mean,
she's
I didn't
got,
really
like,
question it. It was just dope. Like you said, I was just like in the moment, like, oh damn, she's going off.
No,
but
they
like
say it in the first episode.
when it happened in Book of Boba Fett, I had a problem with it.
I didn't think it was a logical thing, or
No, it
that we were
wasn't
supposed
logical.
to accept it as a logical thing.
But nothing's
It was-
logical in this one, so it's
yeah.
fine. I mean, there's butterflies in people's heads.
Yeah,
It's cool.
It's consistent.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's end it there. Visit us on socials at confidently_pod. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram, mostly on Instagram. Savon be posting some memes here and there.
That's right.
Follow us on our stories. But mostly leave us comments. Let us know what you thought of Peacemaker. Let us know what you thought of Book of Boba Fett and that mess of a show that it was. And then
It's a little biased.
we'll be hitting you we'll be hitting you up in a week or so, talking about some games, some PS5 news. Have a good one.
Peace.
Incredible!